Welcome back to what card is the community drastically overreacting to this time. On this episode we'll be taking a look at the soon to be released ultra rare spell card, Dark Ruler No More. Now before I get into the video, I just wanted to give you guys a quick reminder that if you do enjoy the content you're watching and would like to see more, so please consider subscribing to the channel so you know whenever I post. It's completely free and you can unsub at any time. Alright, so first of all, right off the bat, I'm going to state this right now so there is no confusion. I think Dark Ruler No More is an amazing and powerful card. Don't get me wrong here. But let's have a bit of a talk about what exactly makes this card insanely good and what its niche is designed to fill, and subsequently, why it won't actually be that great in Duel Links, at least not on its release. So for those of you who have never played the TCG version of the game before, Dark Ruler No More is a normal spell card that on activation will negate all the effects of your opponent's current face-up monsters until the end of the turn, and in doing so, you will not be able to do damage to your opponent's life points on that turn. But the most important thing to note about this card, neither player can activate monster effects in response to its activation, and that line of text alone is what makes this card really powerful. You see, for anyone who has played the TCG, they will know the pain of going up against a combo deck and losing the coin flip, and being forced to go second. Now not every deck does this, but there are quite a few decks whose entire purpose in life is to make it as hard as possible for you to actually play the game. Their entire goal is to make it as hard as possible for you to actually activate a single card by enacting some absolutely degenerate combo which if left uninterrupted will result in a board state of multiple negates, stuff like BORRELOAD Savage Dragon or Appaloosa. And the main issue with these board states is that they are often containing multiple Omni negates, so negate effects that can hit all card types, spells, traps, or monster effects. So in the case of some of these boards being constructed, there is quite literally no way for some decks to really out them. Obviously there is tribute effects or super poly for the few smartass in the comments, but let me continue. There isn't a whole lot of cards you can activate to try and remove these monsters. You activate a Raigeki, negated. Book of Moon, negated. For the Duel Links players, maybe Lightning Vortex, nope, negated. And consequently, since there are multiple negates on board, you will not be able to use your monster effects either, which result in an auto loss. So what card did Konami release to try and combat this? Dark Ruler No More. Because Dark Ruler not only is able to deal with every single monster your opponent controls in one hit, it is also not able to be responded by any of those monsters, including the Omni negates. So with one card, you just completely decimated your opponent's strategy and completely destroyed them, so you can just play the game normally. But now let's head out of TCG land and head back over to Duel Links. In Duel Links, there are three main factors as to why this card makes little to no sense at all. At least right now. First of all, I want you guys to try and find me a single monster that is negating spell cards that is actively seeing play at the moment. As remember, Dark Ruler can still be responded to with spells and trap cards. There isn't one. The only two cards that I can think of that fit the description of actively seeing play is Chien, but let's be honest here, it's been like 2 years since Six Samurai were actually meta relevant, or Dark Cavalry, which is only seeing play in Dark Magician nowadays. Now maybe I'm just missing some cards here, but if it's this hard for me to think of them, it should be pretty obvious that there are not a whole lot of them in the first place to be thought of. This simply means the cards like a Book of Moon, Chalice, Offerings, all these quick play removal options are just usable, and result in the exact same effect, or in the case of Offerings or Book, can actually contribute to actually removing monsters as well, and all without the downside of not being able to damage your opponent during that turn. Now there are probably a few of you out there thinking right now, but Dark Ruler hits every monster, whereas the cards you mentioned are all single target. And this leads me on to the second factor as to why it doesn't really make sense to use it in Duel Links at the moment. Duel Links currently isn't a flooding game. We have access to 3 board slots in total, and at least in the current meta of those 3 board slots, there isn't really a deck that summons 2 monsters that you absolutely have to negate in order to play the game. There are some decks like Fire King that summon an Avata, or Thunder Dragon that summon a Bouncer, or even Harpy that summon a Slash. But none of these decks ever really summon 2 monsters that you need to negate in order to play the game, In most cases, there is only really one quick play effect you need to deal with, and keep in mind, this is Darkruler we're talking about, so all it does is negate. It doesn't actually remove anything. There was one deck you could argue that needed a Darkruler for you to be able to play the game, but
the whole Star-Lord deck is completely deleted. It no longer exists. They deleted this entire deck type.
Yeah. And to be fair, Darklord is a perfect example of a deck that would make sense to run a Darkruler against, and a meta where Darkruler would be quite relevant. If the meta becomes a whole bunch of decks that end on a board state of multiple quick play effects that stop you playing the game entirely, that's where Darkruler comes into play. But currently, that's just not the case. 99% of the time, there is only ever one monster you need to deal with, and keep in mind I'm saying the word need on purpose, as if your argument is, well, my opponent has both a Bowser and a Utopia and I need to negate both. Every single deck should have access to a way to remove your opponent's stuff once you get around these negates and quick play removes, so cards like Utopia don't need to be negated in order for you to play the game. And now onto the final reason this card isn't as ridiculous as everyone hypes it up to be. It's a normal spell card, not a quick play. There is a reason nearly all TCG decks that do run this card will never main deck it. This card is generally a side deck option. The card is completely dead if you go first, and having it just hinders your chance of setting up a decent board state for yourself. Whereas if you're running something like Chalice or Book, you not only have a card to help you deal with the irritating board states going second, but a card that you can set going first that can still disrupt your opponent and be actually useful. In summary, Darkruler is a card that will probably see play in a future meta down the line. But right now, Duel Links doesn't give half a fuck about its existence, and in a vast majority of cases, a Chalice is just better, or at the very least achieves the exact same outcome. Alright guys, that's it for this little rant video. If you enjoyed, make sure to give this video a thumbs up and consider subscribing to the channel to see more content from me. Thank you guys for watching, laters. Oh, by the way, for all the people who are going to comment, but Spirit Dragon, oh, did you forget about Spirit Dragon? Congrats, you found a decent use for Darkruler. But if you're really running Darkruler for that one synchro card, you are just shooting yourself in the foot. Also, a ton of your opponents are smart enough to just have the toggle switch on and summon Azure at the start of your turn anyway. And also keep in mind, you can just chain effects like Chalice or Offerings to the Azure before its effect activates anyway.
Hey, big brother, can I watch SpongeBob?
Shut up, Mokuba. I'm busy flagging YouTube videos to compensate for the fact that I have an extremely small penis.
Oh.